Hello, Margie, and thanks so much for saying yes and agreeing to do this interview. And there's no truth in the rumor that I twisted your arm up your back to get you to do it. So I'm delighted that you're joining us this evening. And really, I suppose I've known you all my life as my next door neighbour. But for people who don't know Margie McColgan, could you just tell us, who is Margie?
Right, thanks very much for asking me, Mari. And before I start, you did ask me, and as you rightly said, you slightly screwed my arm up my back, you know, not too much. And I laughed at it. And then one morning, Father Farn kindly said at Mass, if people approach you, just say yes. So that was the kick that I got, you know, so that's why I said yes. So first of all, I'm known as Margie. I was christened Margaret Meenan. I was born in Craigan in 1958. I'm one of 9 children. I reckon I'm well balanced because there's 4 above me, 4 sisters, and 4 below me, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My mum and dad both come from big families. My mum's one of 9 also, and my daddy's one of 9. So you can imagine how that really expanded out. And we all grew up being very close on both sides, close to cousins, and holidayed and had great times with them. While I was young, living in Craigan, and you'll know this because of your background of teaching, and I'd be very proud when you talk proudly of Craigan, because I'm so proud of it too. But there was only one primary school, served the whole of Craigan when we were young. And it was decided that the best way to cope with all those primary 1 to 3, which would be your junior infants to your first class, and how to cope with that, so many had to go in the morning and so many had to go in the evening. So I think from memory, the morning class would have been 9 to 12:30, or 9 to 12, and the evening class would have been 12:30 to 3:30. So we were the evening class, my family, all but one sister. Now, we reckon that was a mix-up. Well, I feel it was a mix-up with authorities, but you never questioned the authority then. So she had to go to the morning class when the rest has done the evening class. So, and you know, from your own working relationship, anybody that does the afternoons called the graveyard shift. So we had the teachers when they were tired. But also one of the things was, that meant as a child, you had nothing to do up to 12:30 in the day. So some mornings we were sent to Mass as well. So that was our mornings, going to Mass and then going to school. And as I say, that was from primary 1 to primary 3. And what was big in our family growing up, and even in my cousin's family, was a family rosary. And it didn't matter who was there, or if you were playing with your friends, come 7 o'clock, you were taken on to do the rosary. And it was great if you had all your cousins there, because the parents were so sincere, the cousins would start giggling and you'd end up getting a clip, you know, for laughing. So that was us, the primary 3, as I say. So then at 7, going on to 8 years of age, we had to go from the primary school to the school down the town. And mine was, along with my sister, was St. Eugene's beside the cathedral. And if you're familiar with there, you'll know that there's a grotto there with Our Lady and St. Bernadette. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was on there just a few weeks ago, and our St. Bernadette heel is baldy. The marble is wore away, where everybody ran on in the morning, rubbed Bernadette's heel, blessed themselves and ran on to school. And you never passed the grotto without touching the statue of St. Bernadette. So I hasten to add, I've started doing that down here at Muff Chapel. So that was us in the primary 7, where then you had to do the 11 plus. But I would say, and then from that, I went to a great school called St. Mary's. You might be familiar with the name like that. I went to St. Mary's School, and there, I left there, I went to the Tech, and then I went from the Tech to the working part-time in the Nazareth House, Monday to Friday, and then after from 46. Now, they obviously didn't let me work with the elderly or the young. I was put into the kitchen, and for my sons, I couldn't cook, but I was taught on there by a mum.
Was that in Pump Street? Was that the Nazareth House in Pump Street, or where was it?
Nazareth House in Bishop Street, because
Bishop Street.
Mercy Nuns was
Oh,
Pump Street
yes,
with
correct.
the teachers.
I
Nazareth
meant
House.
Bishop Street.
And
Sorry, I meant Bishop Street.
oh, well, that's just
Sorry.
across from the college. So I used to work
Aye.
there every afternoon after school, and I think the nun there thought I had potential to go on to be a nun. Needless to say, I started going out and about, met Fancy, and married football. I married Fancy, you know.
Where did you meet him? Where did you meet him?
I actually, it's funny because you are aware that we did come through times of the troubles and things like that. And I remember during the time living in Craigan, the first house we lived was in Plissless Lane Drive, which had an upstairs flat. And we then moved to Rasslin Drive during 1969. And as you know, Craigan was in a go area then. And so what happened was my brother-in-law played football, and we went to watch him play this team, Quigley's Point Swifts, and needless to say, Quigley's Point Swifts won.
You met him at football, Margie.
Well, I didn't meet him at the match. We went then to a place called Joe's Place in Quigley's Point,
right,
which was always a stopping spot for us, either going to the Fort Hotel in Greencastle or going to the Lilac or Kildare. We always stopped, and I met them there where the celebrations was going on, and that's how I met him. So, and I remember then when I started going out with him, this elderly lady, and I will add, she's still living, and she's in her, I think she's in her 91st, 96th year, she said to me, "I'm only warning you, if you marry Vincy, you're marrying football." And truer words had never been spoken. So, because she was in the same boat, she married somebody who was passionate about football. So that's how that was. And as I say, when we lived in Craigan, as you know, we come through troubled times and all. But to us, everybody in Craigan was all going through it at the same time, and nobody thought anything of it. It wasn't until then I was going out with Fancy, and there was a dinner dance, and I'm not named, but Fancy's sister, she'll know who I'm talking about. And we were all going to dinner dance, and they wanted to get a pair of shoes. And I said, "Shall I meet you, and I'll take you into the town." So when I left work to go to the bus to meet them, they were redirected 3 or 4 times because bomb scares in the town. And I eventually made my way to Patrick Street, where the Locksfoley bus pulled down, met the girls that come off the bus. As we were walking across the back lane, the army was running towards us. We're in single file, and I'm talking, and I turn around to find they're not there, and they're running with the foot patrol back on the bus and back with them all. So they were petrified. So, but I couldn't understand why they would be so scared, you know, because this was such a way of life. So that's my background as to, I left the tech. My first job then was in the tech for 2 years. I went back in and pursued further education. And I then went into the council and worked in the council for 38 years before I retired. I have to say, loved every minute of it. Loved every minute of it. So.
And I know you're only retired a year or two, Margie, but you know, that's a great resume of a brilliant life story so far. Can you tell me, looking back on that, what it is you're most thankful for, apart from that great win of Quigley's Point Swifts?
Oh, they're great ones then all the time. I was going to say, what I'd be thankful for, Mary, in my life. Now, I know this goes without saying in everybody's life, you know, you're thankful for your family, you're thankful for your brothers, sisters, your parents, thankful for your children and your grandchildren. And I think they're all highs in your life that you're just so grateful for. I think stepping away from that, you're thankful to people that come into your life and maybe give you that wee bit of push or direction. So one of the people that would stream to mind would be, it's an actual teacher, right? And this teacher, when I was a student, was advising me not to come back because I was too giddy and I was too, but that same teacher, when I went back to the school, I remember it was a Friday evening. He was the head of the secretarial department in the tech, and he'd come down on a Friday evening and whispered in my ear, "Would you like a job?" And I looked up and yes, and he says, "Go over to the office and tell him I sent you over." So I went over to the office in the tech, said, "Mr. McColgan sent me over," and he says, "Starting Monday morning." And that wouldn't happen now, but that's how it happened then.
Yeah.
So I found out that I was covering maternity leave for a girl. Actually, it was 3 pregnancies, because when one was coming back, the other was going off. So that was the job. And then when that maternity leave finished, I went back to Michael McColgan and asked him, could I come back and could I complete a course that I've seen? And he says, yes, not a problem. Now, sadly, he only died last year, but that's somebody like that I'd be thankful for. And you meet these people, and it's not until you're older that you realize just what they did for you.
Yeah.
And then when I done that course, then I finished, and then the job for the council come up. And again, my cousin let me know that there was a job coming up in council. I applied. I got the job. I didn't get the job. I got an interview initially, and it was a Friday. And I have a sister who, you probably know, sadly she died.
That's right.
But she sat in the step along the fence at the time when I went down for the interview. It was a Friday again. Must be something about a Friday. And I come out of the interview. We proceeded to head to Greencastle, where I thought I was going down to my family for 2 weeks holidays. We got to Greencastle, and my mum met me and says, "And you got the job?" And I thought she was getting confused. And I says, "No, Mum, it's only an interview." And she says, "I but you got the job." And I says, "No, Mommy, it's an interview. I won't know." She says, "They rang. They say that you start on Monday." So I didn't even give me 2 weeks holidays.
Oh.
So I'm thankful for those people, Mary, that come into your life that you don't realize until you're older and you look back in your life just how good. I'm thankful, as I say, for my family. I'm thankful for the family I'm married into, and hopefully they listen to this and they give me all the backhanders that they promised me, But I'm married into a good family, and I look at Vince and my lives, and our lives seem to be mirrored image. We're both big families. We both know what it's like to lose somebody through sickness. We know it's like with some, addiction. We know cot death. Everything that's happened in my family has happened in Vince's family. So I don't know if that's just coming of a big family or just coincidence, but everything we've gone through, it's nearly a mirror image.
Yeah, that's very true. So I was going to ask you something, and I do know some of the tragedy and difficulties that you faced, Margie, because I know you well, but would you talk to us about the challenges that you faced? You've mentioned your sister and so on there, and how you've coped with them, and not necessarily your own, but just in your family and in your extended family, if there's any that stand out. And just talk to me about how you coped with them.
Well, I think the important thing to remember is I was only 22 when Folly took sick. And you turned to prayer, because that's all you had. It was hope. And I remember then, Folly died on Christmas Day in 1980. She was only 23. And when I look back then, I was angry with God. I thought, well, why couldn't he cure her? I would look and I would sort of say, what's the point of even praying? But I remember then getting a wee prayer, and it was called Footprints. And I don't know if you've ever heard or read it.
Yeah.
But that brought it home to me, because when Polly was very ill, she used to say a little prayer, and it was called Calvary. And I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's about she's comparing her life with God. And even though she's suffering, she's recognizing that she didn't suffer as much as God did. And I used to think that was well brave, because I used to encourage me saying I don't want it, but at no time did she never bore her illness with anger. It was constant faith, constant prayer. And I used to wonder where she was getting it from. But to me then, after she died and I come across Footprints, I reckoned true to form, God was carrying.
Aye.
So,
Aye.
but that, you know, that would be my memory. I mean, there was anger at that time. She was young, she had a young child, she was married. But having said that, I look back now and, you know, to me, God didn't give us sickness. It was the diseases of this world, sickness. But she bore it strong and well.
Yeah. And in many ways, her strength gave you strength, really, then through, you know, through the way she was able to bear her own. So, I mean, clearly faith was very important to Billy. And, you know, how important then is faith now in your life? Like, clearly you talked about, you know, mass every day when you went in school, the rosary every evening, hoping the cousins were there. And clearly, you know, the loss of somebody as close as your sister Philly at such a young age, you know, carrying that, and those prayers that you've mentioned. Faith's clearly a very important thing in your life. So talk to us about faith.
I think, Mara, you walk faith. You know, it's not something you wear on your sleeve. You know, it's how you act every day in life. That's my take on faith. You know, so like I like to go to mass. I think mass puts routine into your life. It might be well good during the week, like, and even though during this COVID and lockdown, every Sunday morning we have this TV ready to go, and you know, follow far listening to mass. You know, but it's going to have a problem when we all go back, because I think we're all going to end up walking in that chapel in pajamas. You know, to me, when I look at us, because I'm getting up there at 10, and I've even tried to make a conscious effort to get up and get dressed, because of, you know, as if I was going to mass. But depending, I could be sitting in the sofa wearing my pajama, listening to mass. And I've even found myself trying to stand up when you're supposed to sit down, because I thought, you know, that's another thing. You just would get out of the habit. But I think faith is very strong, was always strong. And I look back again to an occasion, and growing up where we did, I remember one day, again, Polly was ill, she was in the hospital, and it was 7 o'clock in the evening, and the door knocked, and walked my brother's mates. Now these are the boys with the Wrangler jackets and the, you know, and the I can't remember the name of the trousers, halfway up the legs, like, but they all walked down, and there was about 5 or 6 of them, and we were all kneeling doing the rosary, and then boys all knelt down. And that sticks out in my mind, that how we can judge people, but should take, you know, a book by its cover, because them boys sat down and they knew word for word, you know. And even going back into Mary, and this was a difference I found when I moved him off. We used to do the retreat every year, and it was a big thing, and we loved it, you know. And I mean, there were 7 girls hung around each other, and we were up at 6:30 in the morning to do the 6:30 mass. And then, of course, when we went home, my sisters were always starting work at 8 at 8:30, and then I used to go and steal their clothes and go to school looking really, and then I'd be changed before they come back. But then we went to mass at night, and the service at night, and the retreats. When I moved here, it was once every 5 years, and but I mean, it was standing room only in Craigan, and you know the size of Craigan Parish.
Huge chapel.
They were standing in the sides, but it was packed, and everybody done it, you know. So faith was quite strong. And you're saying about the candles, we were taught never to pass.
I better fill you in. Like, one of the things that, you know, it did really impress me during lockdown is you see what happens before. When you're in the chapel, you don't really see what goes on, because you either come in when you come in or when you leave. But I always noticed you after mass on the camera going up to light candles. So I really am interested in that, like your devotion to Our Lady, to the Sacred Heart. You know, talk to me about that. And you were going to tell me there about lighting candles.
Well, I have to say, my daddy has a great devotion to the Sacred Heart, and my mammy has a great devotion to Our Lady. I mean, and my father says, you know, he would have never went to bed at night unless he knelt outside of the bed and said his prayers. And he used to say, when things were coming at you hard and you couldn't cope, all as you had to say was, Sacred Heart of Jesus, I place all my trust in thee. And he believed that. My mother would have had every novena, every prayer, and she knew them, but she would have hopped into bed, but she could be still praying an hour later. So we were growing up and taught you weren't allowed to walk past the chapel without calling them to say hello. We didn't have the money to put up candles, but on a Sunday you might have been given the money to put up a candle. So that was something we grew up with. And I remember years ago, again, it was put up a candle for so-and-so, and put up a candle for so-and-so, and put up a candle. And it was a man said to me, just put up 3 candles and put them up in the name of the Holy Family, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And he says, they look after everybody.
Oh, lovely.
I was only about 16 when that man says to me, because I was trying to remember who I had to pray for, you know. So he said that, and that's why I will put up 3 for my intentions, and I put up 3 for my mum's intention.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
And as I say, it's and that would be the reason behind putting up candles. But to me, I would never leave a chapel without putting up a candle. And as you know, and I know, that muff's slightly different from SPH, because them electronic ones, sometimes the coins work and sometimes they don't. So I spend my time coming to chapel saying to God, you owe me the next time if you put in too much or you put in. So it's that thing. If I hadn't changed, I would put up the candle and I would make off it the next time I was done.
Yeah, it is lovely, and it did inspire me when I saw you doing it. So don't underestimate that devotion. I just thought, we're nearly finished, but tell me, you've mentioned a lot about, like your sister's illness and so on. Is there any other time, Margie, when you really felt kind of the power of God? Because clearly you have a very strong faith and you have great devotion and great prayer. When you felt the power of God working in your life, when you felt that, presence is almost hard to explain. Is there any time that comes to mind when you felt that power in your life, when you were asking for something or when you knew somebody was in bother?
Well, do you know, I'm trying to think back in times, Mary, when the crisis in your life, like, I mean, there was times you felt, isolated, or you weren't getting the answer you deserved, and sometimes you just got to say to yourself, and I know people think I'm out my trolley sometimes, but it was like, there was, something happened. There was something happened, and I was getting a bit annoyed and angry about it. And I always believe in looking for the signs. And I have a set of fairy lights, solar fairy lights that lay out there. Try to get them to work, wouldn't work, and done everything with them. But
they're lovely. We love your fairy lights. We always know it's Christmas when Margie's fairy lights come up.
But these fairy lights hadn't worked. I had left them out for dumping, but something had happened. And I was praying a lot, for this reason. And it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, put it like that. And I got angry and I got annoyed. And I was putting away the cups and I looked out and the fairy lights were working. Now, I know people are going to say that one's where the fairies herself, but I took that as a sign. There was light at the end of the day. I hear what you say, but because my mum passed away, I took it was her telling me, don't give up hope, don't give up hope. And so those kind of things would happen. I do hear people talking and I think, oh, fair play to them. And, I would hear people saying, thank you, Jesus. And I'd be looking at them and I was, oh no, I'm just thanking God that turned out. And I'd be saying, God, I asked him for loads of things, but I don't know if I ever thank him for it.
I know.
So there is times that, and I think that's God in your life. People are coming as, there was one night I was heading off the meeting with Sligo. It was a winter's night. The rain was blowing. It was a gale. I took a flat wheel. I was on my own. The cars was roadworks and the cars were all flying past. And I thought, oh my God. And I thought, oh, please God. And it must be about 10 minutes later, this man pulled up to see could I assist. And I says, oh, thank God, and he turned around and says, well, no, he says, to be honest, I was in the house, but my wife went shopping and she seen a car broke down, but she seen everybody flying past. So she turned the car, went back to the house, told him, and he come to the aid.
Oh, my goodness.
So I
very good.
think Those are signs that somebody's looking after you.
But I think it's, I mean, your example of you getting the strength to understand that sometimes our prayers aren't answered, but that doesn't mean God isn't working in your life. I think that's really fascinating, Margie, and very, very powerful, as well as the good woman that had the sense to send her good husband out to fix the tire. I'd be with her on that. My last question is maybe the hardest question, Margie, and that's really if you wanted to talk a wee bit about what your understanding is of what happens when we die. If you want to kind of give us your interpretation of the story of, you know, kind of our soul and what lies beyond.
Do you know something, Mary? That's interesting, because I know with crowds, people I sit around, and for the purpose of this, I have to look at the people that have come into my life, my friends, the girls I've worked with, you know, as mentioned, family, mentioned my children and my grandchildren. I look at my life, be very lucky, but I know we have talked about this, and it's funny how they all see the afterlife.
Yeah.
And we have talked openly about this. I just see afterlife as there are many rooms. But I like to think when I do move on, that my family that have passed on are there waiting for me and will see me, and they will come, you know, when it's my time.
Yes.
And I think I hold on to that, to believe in that, because I would hate to think there was nothing after this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do believe that they are watching over me and they're taking care. But I know you're saying it to me, what I see, my sister says, but our bodies leave us. And I still see us as our bodies being our bodies. She sees a soul, and I'm going, but what's your soul? You know, to me, it has to be held in the body. But that, I do believe in the afterlife. I do believe that we'll just go there and there'll be no more sickness and no more pain and no more hurt. And that's what I believe.
Well, I think that's a beautiful, I love the quote, there are many rooms. And like you, I'd also hope that place has no more suffering, no more pain. Margie, it has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it was always going to be a joy to interview you. It's been social history as well as, what would you say, a sharing of your faith journey. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. So on behalf of the Adult Faith Group, thanks a million. Thank you.
And Mary, thank you very much. And on a final note, could I just say, and I think what the young people done over COVID, they're a credit to this community, they're a credit to their parents, and I hope they keep it up.
Thank you, Margie. Thanks so much. Okay, now, bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.